Hi, this is Matt Chung. I'm founder of Work in Fintech. And in today's interview, we're delighted to be joined by Sean Forward, who's the UK CEO of payabl, a fintech company specializing in payments. Hi, Sean.
Hello, Matt. How you doing? Thanks for having me on. I'm thrilled to come and have a chat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, really appreciate your time. Well, I guess before we jump into your own story, can you just tell us who payabl is and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Payable is an omni-channel payment processor, which in sort of day-to-day speak is helping merchants accept payments from their customers. So we focus mainly on credit cards. So if you've got a merchant that is looking to accept payments, let's say it's, I don't know, Vinted or somebody like this, they're online, they're looking to take your payment to pay for a purchase. We help them with the acceptance piece of that. From the point of putting your credit card number in and you clicking go or submit, we take the payment, we do all the technology around sending that out, taking it from your card and then giving it back to the merchant. So it's very much about the merchant ecosystem. So the giving merchants the ability to pay. That's probably the best succinct way of describing it. The company itself is really dynamic as an organization. We've got three main hubs at the moment. One in London, where I'm the main person as far as the management here. We also have Frankfurt, obviously in Germany, and that's where all our techies are. And then we also have Cyprus, which is part of our operational hub. We're about 200 people, wide-ranging, broad skill sets. We've obviously got people who are techies doing the programming and understanding how different connections move together. We have management. We obviously have people selling, making sure that we're getting out to our customers, making sure we're understanding what our customers need, and a whole range of different types of role, from marketing to sales to accounting across the board. I've been with the company for quite a while, nearly 15 years now. We've been in slightly different guys, but payabl as an organisation is very dynamic. We've got a very young staff base who are very smart and articulate, real sort of breakers within the industry. It's a really great company.
What does the Omni-Channel bit mean?
Channel, the word omni is obviously sort of a focus at the moment, and it's really multi. So there's many different channels that merchants want. So, for example, if you are if you like paying with a credit card, you can pay with a credit card. If you like paying with a local transfer, like bank to bank, you can pay with that. If you like to pay with crypto or some sort of central bank digital currency, we cater for an omni channel of everything that people want to be able to pay with. So what we're also looking to do as well is make sure that we are set for the future. We're looking to make sure that different currencies and different ways of paying are adopted early, and if people are looking to use those methodologies, then we make sure that we have that as part of our service. It's omni solution and omni-channel being the different ways of paying.
So you said you've been at the company for 15 years, but you've actually been in fintech for even longer, and probably before even the word fintech was bandied around.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what fintech was when you started in your kind of first interactions with payments?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll go back just a little bit before that, if it doesn't with you, Matt. I originally trained as a PE teacher, so I was on the road to be out there changing people's fitness and health and sport, and which was wonderful. And I'm still actively involved, with schools, particularly in rugby coaching, still now, which I absolutely adore. But my wife and I just got married, so this is 27 years ago, and we didn't quite feel so we wanted to stay put. So we decided, come on, we need to go and work or travel or sort of be, a nomad for a while. We ended up actually in St. Kitts, which is in the Caribbean. It's a really, really tiny island. And this was in 1998. And a friend of ours offered us some work. We had no idea what it was, but we gave up our teaching jobs and said, come on, let's go and do something a bit crazy. So we ended up being there, planning on being there for 3 months. We ended up being there for 2 years. And we got involved in a company called DataBank. DataBank back then was a piece of technology that sat in a in a hotel system. But when these hotels in the Caribbean region, in St. Kitts and the other islands there, they used to use this system, and it's hilarious to think about it now. But on your credit cards, the number used to be embossed, so it used to stick up. And they used to put a piece of carbon on here and get a machine and go like this, and then send the transactions off and da da da. Anyway, what DataBank did, it used the very, very early internet to send out an IP or an internet protocol transaction. So instead of moving from this carbon situation, it became one of the very early internet protocol transactions. It still took to like 2 minutes probably to go, and to think how long it would go through now, within an instant. We were sending those things out, and it got rid of all the fraud and the chargebacks and the different elements and the settlements, so how quickly the merchant got their money. It was sort of very revolutionary at the time. But the really interesting thing here, we were doing, I don't know, let's say $50,000, let's get in dollars, US dollars over there, in processing on a monthly basis. And we were thinking, right, hotels. But suddenly the US had this massive change of direction with the way that they were legislating gambling. So in the UK, go to Ladbrokes or whatever, we go and put a bet on. But in America, that long ago, it was illegal to do so. And what happened is there was a big insurgence. It was where the first .com came through. There was this massive surgence of online casinos and sports books or bookmakers that couldn't work in America. So what they had to do, they had to find a way of doing it elsewhere. And we had a big part of the solution, which is the way to accept the payment. And basically, they took our piece of code and put it into their cashiers, and we started taking payments for the online gambling industry, which at the time we had no clue about. It was totally alien from us. So we went from doing like 50,000 to doing 50 million a month in processing. It was just crazy. So we were probably 30 years old at the time, and it was wild. We ended up. There was another piece of the company called Secure Bank, which was in Florida. We ended up living there. We ended up doing a reverse takeover of a NASDAQ company, and it was public for a while, and then it wasn't. But it was such an exciting time. PayPal looked to buy us at one point, so I'm not sure I actually met Elon Musk, but he was somewhere in the building apparently when we were there chatting with him. So anyway, look, that was. We finished doing that probably 2003, 2004.
And what were you doing? What was your role at the time?
Well, to be honest, to start with, it was everything and anything. It was like, plugging the holes, as far as anything technical was concerned, because I was a PE teacher. So I was, I was enthusiastic. I was, keen to learn. I always had a sort of an entrepreneurial eye for an opportunity. Again, and I think that's one of the key messages that I'd always give to anybody. I give to my own kids who are 22 and 19 now. You've got to keep your eyes open, because for an opportunity, and it's not just business. It's in life really, and you're only going to see an opportunity if you keep your eyes open, and often they stumble and hit you in the face. Sometimes you have to look a bit deeper. I ended up doing everything. So I was really started really on the accounting side, and then I moved to the account management side, looking after the merchants, making sure that they knew how to technically integrate the solution we had. When the settlements didn't arrive on time, and they were shouting at me down the phone, I was calming them down. It was at an early part, and I'm sure Matt, with your experience of running your own business, you have to be open to try and do anything. You can't always do everything, but you can give it a good go. And if you can't do it, go and find somebody who can, and sort of solve the problems. I came into the company, just to sort of help. I ended up managing the sort of the portfolio of the sales side, and then the account management side. I then ended up becoming sort of the operations director, and then the operations sort of COO role, that chief operations officer type of role. And again, it was just very much learning on your feet, be curious, ask questions, go online. I mean, online back then was a whole different way of doing things. But that was another era. I ended up doing everything, Matt, is the answer, and often not very well. Made a lot of mistakes, I'm sure, and just kept being curious, keep asking questions, and keep moving forward, really.
And so after this data bank and all the things you're doing there, where did that lead to, and what was the next place you went to?
Yeah, so when was that? Not to put it into chronological order here, but let's say we got to about 2008. It was the financial crash. We were living in America at the time. We had 2 kids. We were living just north of Orlando, actually. And what I'd done there, I'd moved slightly more towards the tech side of the processing of the credit card transactions, and again, some of the early prepaid card work that Visa and MasterCard were doing. There was a company called M2 there, and we had 2 or 3 different type of methodologies for processing the transactions, and we had a real focus on the actual switching of the transactions through to Visa and MasterCard. So, as I'm sure you're aware, when you're taking a transaction using a credit card, again, back then that was really the only way of paying, is that you have 2 sides of the industry. You have the issuing, so it's the banks who are giving customers the cards that they actually use, and then you have what's called the acquiring, or the merchant acquiring. So it's the piece that's allowing the merchants to accept the payments on that side. And we were working still within that merchant piece, but what we were focusing on is speeding up those transactions. So we were moving away from the 90-second type of model, which was common, particularly as the internet speeds were increasing, and we were getting down to sub-second type of models. And that actually started to roll out and move through. We ended up selling the technology in what really would be called now a SaaS, so software as a service type of model, which was a gateway, a payment processing gateway, which we then sold to other banks and to other processors and to other organizations, so they could also process their own credit card transactions. That was a good journey. So 2008 came along, and we decided, because the US went very flat as far as the crash was concerned, we decided it's probably time to go back to the UK. So we came back. We came back there. I was involved in another couple of prepaid card programs at that point. again, mainly looking at the sort of the tech piece around that. So looking to manage the technical sort of infrastructure management. And I wasn't actually doing the coding. I was doing I was organizing the teams to do the user experience, so the UX and the design, but also managing the business flow of the technology piece, which is sort of where my sweet spot as far as my sort of skill set is. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we ended up setting up a company called PowerCard 21. There was a slightly different company just before that, but we'll talk about PowerCard. And PowerCard was a program manager, which means that it was a prepaid card solution that was focused for merchants to issue prepaid cards to their customer base. So one of the particular sectors that we had was to pay commissions to salespeople within a company. So the company would use PowerCard's platform to log in, and then let's say, Matt, you were one of the sales team for I don't know, company A, and we needed to pay you. What we did is that you would use PowerCard in order to issue the prepaid card, and we would then at that point you would have that card. It had an app. It's pretty rudimentary at that time, but it was an online portal and an app which showed you your balance and your transaction history, and then the merchant would load the account, and then they could pay all of their salespeople with funds rather than sending it to bank accounts. The salespeople were usually geographically diverse, mainly in Europe. That sending funds to bank accounts was difficult, so they used the prepaid card, and it worked fantastic. It was really, really good. We had different types of vertical that we worked with, and we ended up sending, I think we had about 120,000 cards over the sort of the lifespan of that program. We worked with different banks, one in Bulgaria, two in the UK, and one in Ireland, and issuing Visa and MasterCard prepaid cards, which is fantastic. Then what happened about 4 years ago? So that was about that sort of 10, 11, 12 years of the last sort of 15. At that point, we sold payabl into the same group. PowerCard. We sold PowerCard to payabl, which was in the same group, but we rebranded at that time to payabl. So then the company, the group of companies which PowerCard was part of, we amalgamated those. I sold my piece of that, and the company became payabl. I then stayed on as the UK CEO. This was about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years ago. And it was a sort of a great journey. Again, running your own business is difficult. Again, you're going back to being trying to be good at everything, and then making sure you're hiring the right talent, making sure you've got good people coming through, you're staying up to date with your technology, you're looking after merchants and customers. It's a tricky thing to do, but very, very rewarding. It doesn't always go well, so you have to. I think some advice I had one time, I can't remember who gave it to me, and I'm sure it's not new advice to anybody. It is that in life you have peaks and you've got troughs, and you've got peaks and you've got troughs, and it's just part of being a human and being alive. And what you try to do is to try and keep as level and steady as you possibly can, particularly in business, because other aspects of life go there. So don't overly celebrate the highs, although you've got to recognize them, but don't sort of dwindle, or don't focus too much on the lows either, because they all come back up again. It's a bit of a cycle. So definitely recognize the highs and the lows and keep them as they are, but keep things in perspective and try and flatten out the peaks and the troughs of the journey. And I've always tried to do that. It's one of those things that sometimes sometimes it's easier to do that than others, but to follow your own advice. But it's one of those things that that's interesting. But
It sounds like that played a part from how you described your journey. There's kind of like some macro factors there as well. You had
yes,
obviously some regulation which changed things, which is why the US and their stance on gambling meant that all of a sudden, bang, you had this kind of explosion of business.
yeah,
And then similarly, from the great financial crisis in 2008, that actually led you kind of back to the UK. And then in parallel to that, there's this other trend of technology as well. And technology seems like you've kind of been there at these different points and embracing new technology in its kind of nascent state, and then kind of building something up as you're going along as well.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. And it's still changing now, Matt. And I'm sure as well as anybody, is that um, things are always changing. The sort of the buzzwords within the fintech world at the moment is very much about bank-to-bank transfers. But again, I'm very much focused on the payment side of fintechs, of financial technologies, and the way that people pay for things. And there's a big push, although credit cards are still very, very popular, and we've obviously got different ways of paying with credit cards these days. Apple in particular are so prominent within their sort of tap and go type of methodologies within the Apple Wallet on your phones, and it's fascinating because things keep changing. Nothing stays the same, and I say there's this big push at the moment to push people between bank to bank payments. So on a lot of the apps, you've got Revolut, you've got a lot of the personal banking apps, Starling, Monzo, all those sorts of guys. It's very much a way of encouraging people to push payments to bank, and mainly that's because it's cheaper for the banks to do that. What you've got to do is just keep your eyes open, I think, with what's coming through and what's coming up. One of the fascinating things that I think is happening within the industry, and I'm extremely sort of interested and excited about it, is the concept of digital currencies. So we've all heard of cryptocurrencies, different types of Bitcoin and Ethereum and these types of things, which are decentralized payment methods. I think those technology will stay around, but it's the underlying technology which will revolutionize everybody's day-to-day payment flows. And it might be that we don't know about it really as consumers and people on the street, but behind the scenes, it's going to revolutionize these things. And the two big next steps, as far as I can see, are stablecoin and central bank digital currencies. So CBDC, that is the acronym for it. So if we take stablecoins, I don't know if you want to talk about those now, Matt, but they're sort of topics that I think are really fascinating, and people probably heard about stuff, and there's probably a lot of unknowns about it, and it's well worth, particularly somebody coming into the industry. It's a very exciting topic to talk about and to learn about, and it's definitely an interesting one.
Oh no, please do. I mean, it would be good to understand what your view is as we move forward in the future, and how that's going to impact what you're doing in your business, and how it's going to impact the person on the street.
Yeah. Okay. So look, let's take the two. So what I'm seeing is this evolution, and it's very common. This evolution is where you have a very disruptive technology, which let's call that cryptocurrencies at the moment, which is totally outside of any regulation, set up for a particular need, which is usually not satisfied by the current infrastructures of either government or regulation. And you've got this need and what the gap that cryptocurrencies, and let's use Bitcoin as a specific example. What it initially set out to do is break away from the traditional banking constructs, really, or the frameworks. And you could send money directly to each other. You could send it cross-border. You could send it long distances. There's a whole range of things. The other thing, which is again interesting, coming back to my journey, is that sort of the gambling industry is often a groundbreaker within the within the industries, because people want to gamble, and there's other types of probably grayer types of things out there where people are looking for different solutions, and that's where the cryptocurrency has come in. And what I think is going to happen is very much like other methodologies, is that regulation will start coming in, and the UK is extremely well positioned for this, with the FCA and the way that they're regulating, particularly stable coins. Europe is slightly ahead as far as the legislation and the regulation is concerned, but the UK is not very far behind it. I think we've been waiting for this. The general election, obviously, the general election's just finished today, which is going to have an interesting bearing on what comes next with fintech as well, I think. But we'll use that as another topic. So what I'm seeing is that you've got the underlying technologies that cryptocurrencies have developed and expanded and sort of spread, but the day-to-day person on the street still probably doesn't know what a cryptocurrency is. If they do, it would be something probably a bit crazy, some sort of inflated cost of a coin or whatever. But what I'm seeing and what I anticipate happening is that there is stable coin. So a stable coin is something that is pegged to something that is tangible. So let's take a UK stable coin. That would mean there's slightly different nuances of this, but let's take the main concept is that each pound sterling that you issue digitally as a stable coin, you have to back that by having the funds held in a bank. And what I'm seeing there will happen is that the technologies that have been used for cryptocurrency will be used, but in a regulated environment, particularly within a stable coin, pound for pound scenarios. We can talk about some of the use cases for that another day. And I think the vast majority of use cases we haven't even thought about yet. So that's really going to change. Though stable coins are generally issued by private companies or banks or these types of things. In the UK, it's still very new, so there aren't very many stable coins yet within the UK, but I can see that being very significant over the coming, let's say, 12 months. I think you're going to see some real big players coming into the stablecoin market. And then longer term, they're peeling out of the private issued type of methodologies of paying. We come back to the central bank digital currencies. So it will be the Bank of England actually issuing digital money, which will be very much the way that we use I'm going to say pound notes, but we don't have pound notes anyway, pound coins and £5 notes, the notes in our wallet, but in a digital environment. So it'll be very much the ability to pay each other peer-to-peer and genuinely peer-to-peer, rather than going through an intermediary of any sort, and actually paying merchants in a digital methodology. Again, a lot of the use cases of this, I don't think we've even thought about yet. They're yet to emerge. So over the next, I don't think we'll see a CBDC in central bank digital currency in the UK for another 5 years at least. But there'll be another 5 years at least until some of the very sort of specific use cases start coming through. Anyway, Matt, it's a topic I can go on about for ages.
How would that impact your business at Payable? If you can if there is then a UK digital currency and you can just pay peer to peer, not paying any transactions or maybe to a network just to keep the thing running, how does that impact your business?
Yeah, it will have significant impact on our business. But coming back to the omni-channel and sort of omni approach to our business, and the way that we view things is that we have to stay current with the ways that people are paying, because that's the nature of what we're doing. Now, we're obviously still sort of looking to the future. How will that impact? And what I do is I always come back to very sort of practical, practical elements. There's still going to need to be an infrastructure. You're going to still need to have a digital account or wallet or some way of transacting. Merchants are still going to be able to, they're still going to need, even if they can accept that payment directly, they're still going to need a way of managing that. They're still going to need a way of interacting with the customer. There's still going to be the management of the user interfaces. What I think will happen, Matt, and it will take a long time, so we'll be able to move with it. But the actual process of buying and selling, the actual interaction between the two parties, I don't think it's ever going to go away, because there's always, there's at least two parties within the transaction. It's just going to become easier and cheaper. And what we're going to need to do is keep adding value to different elements of that payment chain.
So you obviously been involved in, I suppose, Fintech 1.0, or maybe Fintech 0.1 back in the day with the swipe card. And then, as we've evolved to, I suppose, Fintech 3.0, we're doing things on chain and so on. How have you kept abreast of the latest trends in technology, so you can understand what's coming further down the road? There's always, you want to be going back to your peaks and troughs, similarly with trends in technology, for example, or regulation or new governments coming in. As a leader of a company, you're always trying to think what's happening, next year, next 5 years, next 10 years, and how can we position so that when the next thing takes, it comes to the forefront, like you're seeing at the moment with AI and then CBDCs, and in 10 years time quantum computing or whatever it may be, how are these things impacting kind of what we're doing? How do you stay on top of that, and how do you sound like someone who kind of loves a challenge and is very curious about things, but how do you take that and use it to enrich what you're doing day to day as a business leader?
It's a lot easier and a lot harder to do that now than sort of time gone by. It is a lot easier because there's a lot more information out there. We've got the internet, the different types of sources of information, but it's a lot harder because there is so much. And I think that the key to this is being discerning about the information and the sources of information. And I think this goes for all of us, doesn't it, across the board in all forms of life, is that there's so much content, whether on social media or whatever. We've got to be really, really careful about how we think about the content that we accept. And I think the way I approach it is not just industry specific, but it's also day to day. What you don't want to be doing is taking your political information from, let's say, just somebody random person on TikTok. You've got to give some thought about who you're accepting information from. And the way I do that on the business side of things is I really keen and a big supporter of the different trade associations. So in payments, we've got the Payment Association, and we also have another one called Innovate Finance, which is probably a little bit more banking, a little bit more government focused. But the Payment Association is very much about the day-to-day people within the industry and the different ways that people pay. So the first thing I would suggest to anybody would be to find good trade organizations that have thoughtful, excuse me, a thoughtful content which gives you a chance to network, because again, networking is probably the most important thing that anybody can do at any time within their career. Is be open to meeting new people, be curious about what their journey is, what their story is, and to share your own, because that's quite good fun as well. But yeah, very much the source of information. So online, you've got like FinExtra, you've got TechCrunch, you've got different online podcasts, like yourself. There's some fascinating people that come on to podcasts these days, and to tell about their journey, but also really dig deep about. And it's an amazing way of sharing information, because you can get really quite deep on a on a podcast. You can listen to it while you're walking or driving or whatever, so it's there. But to be specific about answering your question, is be discerning about the content that you consume, and then consume it regularly. Is really the way to do that. The other way is to take part in industry sort of exams or learning. Make sure it's some sort of formal learning. So there are plenty of certificates. There's plenty of online courses that you can do. Again, be a bit discerning about choose carefully the sources of where you're going to get that, or where you're going to do those courses. That's the thing. And then professional trade associations. There's organizations often that they're looking for a qualification, but you can join those. Again, it's all about networking. Get out, talk to people face to face, and really understand what people's journeys are, and be curious.
In terms of other skills that you think are necessary to thrive in working in fintech, and particularly in your area in payments, are there particular attributes you look for when you're hiring people, or is it still very much as an employer, you always want someone who's smart and hungry and is curious and and wants to work hard? That's kind of a given. But is there anything specifically you look for in payments? And also, there's a misconception sometimes that you need to be a developer to work in like fintech. People are kind of associate those two things together, and obviously there's a big technology angle to fintech, but there's also lots of other jobs outside of that as well. So can you talk about the diversity of types of roles within a payments company, as well as the different types of skills and attributes that you look for?
Yeah, I think whenever if we take the skills and attributes first, when hiring, the first thing I always do is try and learn something about a person. Something that is not necessarily role related. What do you do, or what have you done in school? What's the breadth of things outside of your curriculum that you've done? If they're university, people come through university, or what have you done outside of your, I don't know, your maths degree, or your biology degree, or whatever. It can be whatever. And I'm a big supporter of the Prince's Trust and Duke of Edinburgh. These types of things. Often I'm latching on to those types of things early on in the discussion, particularly when I'm interviewing somebody. Often just to break down that initial barrier, to try and put people at ease, and have a real chat with somebody, rather than it be an artificial question and answer type scenario. And then, so after that, particularly if somebody's coming in new that haven't got work experience, because if somebody's already got a job, it's quite easy then to talk about the roles that they've had, and how the different elements of what they've been good at and bad at of that job, and what they need to develop. It would really be to ask them what they're curious about. So what's interesting to you? It might be that they are techie, so they like coding or whatever. It's not very often that there's not somebody that's, unless they're obviously going for a programmer's or a developer's job, that they come up with that. It's usually that they're interested in talking to people, or they're good at numbers. They want to be on the accounting side, they want to be in marketing. So they've got a way that they want to project information. They like social media. They like to. So what I usually do is look for personal traits. And sort of leading into the second part of your question is that there is, in any business, not just fintech, but in any business, you always have to approach these things as a team. Team is always a group of individuals that have different skill sets that come together to achieve a common aim. Those you don't want everybody to be the same, because that's no good. You know, again, I always bring things back to my rugby analogy, so I apologise to people who are not rugby perfect. But you need smaller, thicker people to be in the front row, or you need taller people to be in the second row to catch the ball from the line out. And it's the same in the football analogy as well, in the soccer analogy, where you've got to have goalkeepers and you've got to have your strikers. So it's very much about what I'm really looking for is somebody that's going to add something to our team, some little gem or nugget that's outside of the norm, that's going to really, be really add to the skill set and the breadth of skill set that we've got within the organisation.
So, Sean, thanks for your time today. Just to finish off, can you tell us what your advice would be to your 18-year-old self?
Goodness gracious, go for it. I think is the advice. Get out there, see the world, meet people, be curious, be open. Yeah, just go out there and do it. Don't worry too much. The journey takes you where it will take you. Just go for it.
How can people reach you, Sean? Are you on Twitter or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yeah. So Sean Forward on LinkedIn is probably the best way. I don't do other socials other than through the business, but my email address is readily available to people as well.
Sean Forward, UK CEO of payabl. Thank you for today.
Thanks, that was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.